suddenly. I was supposed to go live in like 4 minutes, but when I was changing the title of the live, then it became something else. So sorry if you end up being late to this because of that reason. I'm really sorry. So I went live last week. I announced it a few more times though before I did it than I did this week, but it's just because I've been playing catch up and I've been recording way more videos than I usually do, so things have just been a little bit different. This week has been pretty cool though. I finally got a confirmation that I will be getting a call from a place that I applied to that I really wanted to work at, and I went up there and I talked to them, so I'm really excited about that. She said, I will call you in a week, so I'm excited to start something new. I'll still be doing personal readings, I'll still be doing videos and stuff, but you know, my schedule might change a little bit, is going to be the only thing. So for right now, I'm still doing these lives on Saturdays until I'm told otherwise with my schedule, but I'll just plan them ahead of time. So you can always check my profile and see when I'm doing my next live. So we're going to do the Celtic Cross again. And today we're going to talk about the new moon in Taurus. That's going to be on Monday. Usually I'm like, I'm going to do a live, and then a few days before, maybe a few hours before, is whenever I see the next big transit, which usually we live by the moon. So the moon is the big one. Last week we had entering Taurus season. So the new moon in Taurus is going to be associated with that. I'm not going to count this as the beginning of our card, but we had Six of Wands reversed fall out here. Fall from grace, egotism, punishment, imposter syndrome. So that's for somebody. But I don't believe I really technically started shuffling yet, so we're not going to count it as our central card. So what we will look at right now is the present. We're going to talk about the present and what we're dealing with this new moon in Taurus. Whenever we're thinking about the new moon in Taurus, we're thinking specifically about our comforts. Also, sometimes standing up for justice. You know, whenever people do not get along, like everybody has their negative sides. So whenever a Taurus is like in their negative aspect, they're really stubborn. You can't like get through to them, right? Like if they think that something is correct or right, they're just going to stick by it no matter what. You can't really convince them. When I'm mad at somebody and I have like a Libra or somebody in my life telling me to think about things from their point of view, it makes me so mad because I don't want to, you know. As like a Taurus sun, I have a few different Taurus elements in my chart as well. Okay, so we got our central card here. We have our present, and justice is what popped out. Oh my gosh, I was just talking about Libra, and justice represents Libra. So what a lot of us are going to be dealing with in the present moment is this feeling of justice. A lot of us want people to pay for what they have done. I've been talking a lot in my videos and in my personal life about like narcissism and how we see it play out in our society, right? And that a lot of people, it feels like people are not getting what they deserve. What they're really doing is like building up all this karmic debt because they will pay for what they're doing, right? So, but that's where a lot of our focus is. It's just so funny that I was just talking about Libras and then that card popped out. So let's look at what the challenge is exactly whenever we're dealing with this aspect, right? I have Ace of Pentacles. A lot of us want to invest in some sort of like future, right? But we're really struggling to do that with dealing with people who are, dealing with people who are like not acting in ways that are justifiable, right? So whenever we have these people blocking our abundance, it's hard to really start the foundation on like how to move forward. Let's look in the past here. I have Strength. This also represents Leo, and then we have the Sun with this as well. So whenever we're looking directly in the past, we can kind of look at like maybe there's a bit of selfishness. Like maybe people were not considering other people's point of views. I think a lot of people, whenever we talk about like isolation and individualism within our like society, we can look at how people were being a little self-centered, you know? And I'm not saying Strength is a bad card because I think it is good to be strong. And I think also there comes like patience and, you know, positivity with that. And I think that a lot of people probably do have those aspects, but I think overall we were maybe being a little too like self-absorbed almost, you know what I mean? A lot of people were too individualistic and just like hoping that if they continue to live things the way that they were, then they're not going to suffer the consequences that other people might. And I think a lot of people still live in that. When we look in the future here, we have Wheel of Fortune reversed. And it says bad luck, misfortune, mishap, disappointment, failure, hardship. We also have Jupiter with this card. Jupiter represents expansion, but it being in reverse here tells me expansion downward. So we are dealing with a lot of misfortune, and in the future we're going to continue to. It's going to be hard. I feel that is at the surprise of no one. You know, for a while, like about a month ago, I was getting a lot of messages that good things were coming, and I was like, how is that going to manifest? Like, I feel like so many things are bad right now. But I think in a way, it's just the balance of life, right? Like some good things will happen and some bad things will happen. Hello. So whenever we look at the consciousness, like what we're aware of and what energy we're working from, I have 9 of Pentacles reversed. It says dishonestly, recklessness, deceit, termination, being cheap. Also for me, 9 of Pentacles is like, it being in reversed tells me that a lot of us are kind of almost being like punished for what's happening. Like you've worked really hard for something and you're just not getting you're just not reaping your rewards. And whenever we think about things like, you know, all these loans and credit and different things that people are kind of like stuck into, it's like there was this hope that it would help you get ahead and you wouldn't need it anymore. I live in Texas, so someone asked if I was still coming to Texas. I live here. Whenever we look at the subconscious though, we're looking at Queen of Wands reversed. So frustration, introversion, insecurity, moodiness. I think for a lot of people, we feel like we can't do it, right? There's not like this like inspiration or this push for us to like take accountability. I think a lot of people are really, I mean, you see it in comments on stuff all the time. People are like, somebody else do something. Whenever it's like, we're not locking in with our like local community and stuff. All of us are limited in our own ways. Some people can do more than other people. And I think that people should look at where their privileges lie. If you are a privileged person and you have wealth and you can do these things without suffering as much of the consequences of like repercussion, then it's your duty and it's your job to help uplift other people. If you're someone who has extremely limited funds, maybe you've been between jobs for a while because of the economy and whatnot, and you're extremely limited on how you can help, then it's going to become more about like community based. You know what I mean? Like look at your community and find like free ways that you guys can help each other or support each other in some way, you know? And so that subconsciousness of feeling like we don't have it, you know, like we like can't do it is really just like internal, right? The advice we have here is the High Priestess. High Priestess is your like connection with intuition and with spirit. So I think for a lot of us, we just really need to look inside. We also have Cancer with this card and Moon. So a lot of us really just need to sit with ourselves, and I would say manifesting is part of it, but I would also say meditating, taking time to relax, taking time to get right with spirit, get right with your intuition, like really just like settle in and like ask spirit, like, what do I need to be doing? And see what you're drawn to. You know, if you're drawn to like help, I don't know, volunteer at your local library or like help at your local food bank or donate clothes or, you know, something like that, then that's going to end up helping the community in a way that is beneficial. You know, it doesn't always have to be grand gestures for us to be doing something that's worthwhile. I have for external influences, we have 7 of Wands. Mars is also associated with this card. It has challenge, protection, competition, perseverance. So for external influences, I think that boundaries are going to be really important. When I see 7 of Wands, you can see that she's like protecting the foundation she's starting to build. So for me, whenever I think of 7 of Wands and external influences, I think that we really need to think about keeping boundaries and maintaining boundaries and holding people accountable. Like, don't let people just, because they don't feel like it, you know what I mean? That they no longer have to abide by what are the rules. And a lot of people are testing boundaries right now. I was talking earlier about narcissism. A lot of people are seeing other narcissists achieve things. So they're like, oh, I can achieve stuff too. No, hold them accountable. Just because someone breaks the law doesn't mean that it's not a law anymore, you know? Just because someone stole something, got away with it, doesn't mean that stealing isn't illegal. So it's definitely important to continue to hold these people accountable and maintain those boundaries. If people are pushing your boundaries, call them out. You know what I mean? Don't let them, right? If you're in a situation where people around you are encouraging this narcissistic behavior, then you might need to think about like removing yourself. Because whenever you're dealing with a bunch of flying monkeys and a bunch of people who want to uphold the status quo and look up to this narcissistic person because they want to be as selfish as them, it's not a good situation for you. For hope, let's say hope and fears. I'll figure out which one when I read this card, but we have the world reversed. And that has to do with Saturn, which is kind of like, what's it called? Like delving out rewards or punishments, right? And so we have delayed success, failed plans, stagnation, and emptiness. So I think that's what a lot of people's fears are, is that one, in a totally natural sense, a lot of people believe that we might lose the world, right? Like that, we can just say that off the bat for people's fears. But also people's fears are like that maybe if they stand up, nothing's going to happen. Or maybe if I do work really hard at this thing, it's not going to work. And it's really keeping you personally from ending this cycle that you've been going in through in your life. Like, you keep finding yourself here, right? But you can't move on to the next step. So it keeps happening over and over again. So, which this is hitting me as well. I was talking earlier in the reading about like finally getting a job offer after a while, you know what I mean? So it's like continuously coming to this aspect where you feel like you failed, like repeatedly. So it's like that's the fear, is like, what if I put in all this effort, and what if us as a society puts in all this effort and then we lose? Like, what then, you know? And I have the outcome here. Okay, it says the sun reversed. So for the outcome, we have lack of clarity, sadness, depression, negativity, and then we have the sun. I don't necessarily take this as a bad thing. I think that just what we were talking about earlier with the future, the wheel of fortune being reversed, like bad luck and misfortune coming to all of us. I think the outcome is just going to be like this level of sadness. I've been seeing a lot online about people. I'm going to pull some oracle cards. I've been seeing a lot online about people talking about this like massive awakening people are having, right? And that a lot of people are becoming more spiritually aware. And so I get the feeling that this is kind of like, we're leading into that dark period where a lot of people are waking up and they're realizing that there's suffering in the world. You know, there's a lot of people who are asleep because they're not thinking outside of themselves. And so whenever people are kind of waking up to the fact that it's like, wow, these messed up things are happening that we can't just ignore anymore. Like, it's affecting us. Then like, that's whenever it gets into like, okay, well then we need to do something, you know? And so I think that that's what this like current outcome is going to be. Whenever we're looking at like justice in general and like wanting to build a new foundation was like our challenge, right? How can we build a new foundation? So I think that the outcome for right now is going to be a little bit more of stagnation and a little bit more struggling. Wow, this oracle card that just popped out goes along with what I'm saying, but I'll show it to you in a second because I'm going to pull like 3 of them. But yeah, there we go. The first one that popped out was direction. And I was just talking about that, right? It was like, what do we do? What do we do, right? And whenever I'm putting it over here with this like strength card that I was talking about earlier, about like maybe like being too strong or maybe not like investing enough energy into being not as like humble. I'm getting that, like humble. People were being a little bit too self-centered in general, and we're not thinking about the fact that other people were suffering. But now we're having this mass awakening where people are realizing like, oh, people are suffering and it's actually my job and my duty to help them. I think a lot of people felt that things were out of their control and out of their power. So like, why do anything? But now we're getting to this point where people are realizing like, oh, we need to do something. We need to stand up, right? I have luck here. It's going to be going with that wheel of fortune. So I think that we need to remind ourselves that we do actually have more luck than we think, or we can make our own luck. So we might be feeling unlucky. There might be these misfortunes and stuff. But whenever I'm talking about like, right, doing the work locally, doing the work with your community, with people, I'm going to advocate for that a lot, right? Then you can kind of create your own luck, you know, like maybe you have been unlucky in life. Maybe you're not the person who gets chosen for these things, or you're not the one who gets the opportunities. But then whenever we put ourselves out there and we really try to help people and get known by people and have these connections with people locally, and that's whenever you're able to create your own luck and you're able to create your own connections. I think whenever we think about how, because I've been talking this reading too about like isolation, right? And individualism, to the point that it's like detrimental to ourselves, right? So whenever we're not engaging in a community, there's no way to have these connections. And it becomes almost impossible. Like we're not an island, right? We're a village, we're a community. So whenever we isolate ourselves from other people, we don't have that opportunity to connect and grow. That is my husband's plushie. Sometimes he's covered with a body pillow, but we didn't fully make the bed this morning, so he's just kind of out and being scary. The last card I have here to share with you guys is Strength. So Strength came in earlier, right? And we talked about that. And we talked about how we were maybe being a little too strong and weren't allowing ourselves to be humble and have humility. So this Strength coming out again, and it's going to be with that the sun reverse that I was talking about, like this era of like depression and feeling just kind of like overall disappointed. I think that this Strength is reminding us that despite us not having the ability to control what other people do, to just like remain strong and continue to fight against like this like pressure, you know what I mean? And continue to work to help each other and liberate each other, right? So that's kind of what I'm getting from that card, is just like continue to be strong, don't give up, don't let people scare you, and just like do your best to protect yourself and the people you love and the people who are around you. So yeah, that's what I have for today. That was our reading during the Taurus New Moon and what we need to focus on whenever it comes to maybe being a little bit more stubborn in these situations, standing up for things, not being afraid to say no. Have you ever fought with the Taurus? They are intense. They come with the rage of the bull, right? So standing up for people, prioritizing your self-care and your self-health, you know what I mean? We can be part of a community and still take care of ourselves. You don't have to betray yourself in order to connect with other people. It's about boundaries. We had that 7 of Wands pop up, right? The external challenge. It's about boundaries. And so that'll be kind of what leads us forward through these next 2 weeks while we're working through the Taurus New Moon and the things that we're setting forward for the next 2 weeks. All right. Thanks for watching. The few of you that watched, I didn't know if it was going to be nobody was here, so I'm glad that a few people came and a few people, it seemed, stayed. So I really appreciate it. And you'll probably see me next week, but I'll put it up whenever I decide to plan my next live. All right. Bye.